Hello sports fans. So this video is about selecting data from one table into another table. Um, so sometimes you want to do a group by query, and we're still in the series of group by queries in my opinion. Sometimes you want to do a group by query, but you can't do it. It's just too complex. So what the request was to look at orders by shift. So first we needed to condense the hundreds of rows of data into sales by hour. So just backing up for a second, and so we're going to cover this case statement, okay? But I wanted to point out the use of select distinct. So I wanted to point out that we have line items which you can get by counting the sales ID. But if we were to look at the sales details table again, we could see that that number is duplicated. So for example, sales 12 is here 5 times because it's 5 line items. So if we count the sales ID column, or any of these columns, we're seeing how many line items were sold. But that's not the same thing as how many individual invoices. So we would like to count the sales ID, but we need to count a unique instance of each sale ID. So for example, we just need to count sales ID 12 once, 13 once, 14 once, and so we're going to strip off all the duplicates with this count distinct. So that's why number of invoices count distinct. That's why that number is less, because that reduces the duplicates. So if you ever need to strip out the duplicates, count distinct. So for example, I once had a list of columns of state, what state were the customers in, but I didn't ever have a list of states. So I wanted to pull a list of states from the table, and I had 5,000 rows of states. So I used select distinct state, and then I got it down to 30 or 40 rows. So very very useful. But the hope was to have the sales by hour of day. So 0 is just after midnight, 9 is 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m. So 1 p.m., 1300, I guess a lot of people on their lunch break, shop at our store. Same thing, 5 p.m., 6 p.m. People buy a lot, and maybe they do something at this time period, and then 10 p.m. they do a little shopping before they go to bed. Some people have a cigarette, some people go for a walk, and some people go shopping. So, before they go to sleep. So the request was first to organize the sales by hour. Then the second request is to put those into shifts. So that's what this case statement does. Put the data into shifts. And so what we're really looking for is something like the following. So how do you turn 16 rows into 3 rows, overnight, daytime, and nighttime? So we're going to select shifts. So we don't want data by hour anymore, so remove that. And then we're going to group by. So that's our dimension. So select the shift, and group by the shift. And then what are we going to do? We're going to sum the line items and I suppose count the number of invoice. So these are all by hour, so now we're going to do it by shift. And I guess now these all need aliases, but that would be later, and I'm just trying to teach you something anyway, and I've already made the aliases. Profit generated sum. Now average skew, now you would never average an average, so average skew per sale. So let's try that again. So number of SKUs would be some line items, and then number of sales would be a count. So we could still calculate it, but now the data is totaled before we calculate it, and so we have 3 rows of data. That's the requirement. Hey, go analyze data for the last month and condense it down to shift, or daytime 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., nighttime 5 p.m. to midnight, and overnight midnight to 8 a.m. So we do need to give these some column headings, so we would just do that by putting those in there as number SKUs or line items, SKUs per shift. So you would do that. So it looks like during the day people buy the largest variety, and in the nighttime people buy the least variety of things, etc., etc. So we kind of need to do a step 1, step 2, maybe even step 1, step 2, step 3 formatting functioning here. So let's see how we could do that. So let's see if we can figure this out. So first, we're going to get our data. All right, so now the data is grouped by hour, but we need more metrics. So we're going to put our code into a subquery, and then so again, parentheses around the beginning, around the end, indent it over, and then wrap it with a select star from. And what are we doing at the higher level? This is a continuation from the prior simple subquery. Now we're just kicking it up one little bit, and so we're adding average SKUs, and here's our new content, a case statement. So we have the data by hour. Now we have hour, line items, invoices, units, revenue, and then that's subquery. That's one subquery. And then what we're going to do is make the 2 metrics again, and now here's the 3rd metric. So this is a case statement. So case is a little different in SQL, but you do case end, and this is a case statement inside a select statement. So here's what you remember. A case statement inside a select statement adds a new column. So the new column is called shift. So we're adding a new column called shift. Um, so we are getting all these columns, and then we're adding 3 more columns, and so the query, the outer query is adding 3 more columns. And this is what you call a textual analytic, or a way to categorize the data. So if the hours between 0 and 8 a.m., that's overnight, I suppose, and then starting at 9 a.m., so maybe that would be 0 to 7, and then 8 to 5, and then starting 6 p.m. And so the data is put into hours, and the hours we're putting into 3 shifts. So now that we have these 3 shifts, now we can analyze the data. But this whole thing is going to give us quite a large data set, and it's a little hard to work with. So what we're going to do is another trick. So now we're going to wrap this into another subquery. So you do the same thing. Put a parentheses around the beginning, from, as. So put parentheses around the beginning, and I guess around the end, sorry, and here's the new content. Select star into from subquery. So take everything out of that subquery and shove it into this FA underscore shift totals table. Now that's like making a new table. How many times can you make that new table shift totals? Once. So there's 2 ways to handle it in the future. You're going to run this query again. You could either delete the rows and add more rows to the table, or you can drop the table, which is delete the table. So delete the table if it exists, and it'll just do that if there already has that. So delete the table if it already exists, and then take all the data and put it in this new table. So select star into from is a fantastic way to put data into a staging table, or your boss says, oh, I need a data set, blah, 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 and I want to connect to it with my Excel or Power BI. Okay, boss, I made you a table with all the data you needed. And so you can do a query and get everything all fixed, and then wrap it into a subquery. Again, you just put parentheses around the beginning, parentheses around the end, give it a name as a subquery 1, 2, or 3, and then around the top you would do select whichever columns you want, or all the columns. So take all that data and put it into, so we wrap this data into a subquery, and you put around the outside usually another select statement. We're building data sets here. So a select, another select, and another select. But this time we're doing select into a new table. But you can only do that once, so we're going to drop the table if it exists. Once the data is in that new table, and I suppose I should show it to you. So here's the new table that was created with the select star into code, and let's just see what the data looks like. So there's our shift, and now the data is in here, we can further condense it. So here's a little query I made, and so select. So this would not be so easily done all in one query. So we put the data into a staging table, so it's easy to get the data back out of it. So you might put data into a table to make it easy for someone else to see the data, or you might put the data into a table as a resting place and then you query it again. So so I went ahead and made that group by query by shift, and so that's the select star into. Fantastic for DBAs. Thank you.